my name's Ellie, and I have my roommate and some of my friends listening to my presentation today. All right, let's get started. Have you ever struggled to say something clearly to a boss or a coworker? Or have you ever thought, how can I be more effective when I'm talking? Well, today I'm here to inform you about communication in the workplace. This will help with your future difficult or awkward conversations that you may have. Yeah, and a stat that I found is 86% of survey respondents believe ineffective communication is the underlying reason for workplace failures. The main points we'll be talking about is what communication is, how it functions at work, and what makes it effective or ineffective. All right, first we need to understand what communication is. Communication is creating meaning through symbolic interaction. There are many different types of communication. There is interpersonal, intrapersonal, small group, and social media. There's a lot of them. So why does it matter? Well, communication is the foundation of all workplace interaction. I, on the screen, provided a diagram showing transactional communication, which shows that it's not a one-way process. All right, I also wanted to talk about communication competence because it's super important. Competent communicators adapt to different situations. There is no one right way. It's about expanding your approaches, and it's not limited to a certain way. An example would be of someone that isn't a competent communicator is someone who is always quiet and always is the same way with different situations, or someone who's the opposite, someone who always has a lot of energy and just never changes. So it's important to reflect on your strengths and and areas to improve. So add to your toolbox. The importance of communication is in different situations and places call for different tones in communication used. An example is when speaking with your boss versus talking with your friend, how do you think it should differ? Well, you're not going to call your boss your buddy and casually talk to him as you would with your friend. It all depends on different situations you are in that you will need to shape your tone and communication style. All right, now that we know what communication is, let's look at it in the workplace. There are many different types of communication at work. There's interpersonal, which involves interaction between people who share emotional closeness and treat each other as unique individuals. So an example is someone at work that truly knows who you are and how you act. You can create that with people by, for example, wanting to go out to lunch with them or any extracurriculars besides work. Also, within the group and team, you're interacting with your coworkers. It would be smart to meet with your group before you guys get to working on your project to create guidelines of rules, norms, roles of people, so you're all communicating what is expected. Also, for the customer, you're interacting with customers and you use different tones that make them feel welcome and also being open and informative. Also, there's digital, which is just commuting on media, so like through emails or texting. And for example, emailing your boss compared to your coworker will be different, so changing to that. There's also formal and informal communication in the workplace, and both are super crucial. Not one or the other is better, but informal communication, it's ideal for, say, meetings, policy, contracts, or there's informal, which is good for brainstorming, team bonding, and all of these together, just having both of that ensures the clarity and structure in a workplace, and also efficiency. So why does efficient communication in the workplace matter? It builds trust, improves efficiency, and reduces misunderstandings. So in this picture that I have here, for Team A and Team B, you can see which one has poor communication and strong communication based on how they are acting with each other. All right, so now that we've seen communication in the workplace, let's see what makes it effective and what doesn't. All right, so we have effective communication, which that would be being clear and concise with what you're saying, listen actively, showing empathy and adapting to your audience, and giving constructive feedback. I gave out a handout which has different effective communication tips on it. Ineffective communication is not being clear and being confusing. That could be interrupting and just not listening. Also, avoiding conflict is a big one because that just creates tension in the workplace. An example would be a manager who gives unclear information on a project and his deadline, resulting in confusion and not meeting the deadline on time. All right, I also wanted to talk about communication styles in conflict. So here are some ways that you could approach a conflict assertively. First, describing the behavior. So you're going to be using neutral language. That would be not using language that's judgmental. And also there's share interpretation, which you're going to label your hunches instead of insisting that you're sure what the other person's behavior means. For example, saying to someone, "You are always late because you are lazy," that's just assuming that's why they've been late. Also, expressing feelings, sharing what you feel is important. Explaining consequences, sharing what will happen if the person doesn't stop what they're doing. You're not trying to make a threat, but you're just trying to state your perspective. And then also share or state intentions, which sharing where you stand on the issue is also important. An example comparison is a coworker hasn't been pulling their own on the past several projects you have worked with them on. Which response is the best way to communicate with them? So Chase, "You never help and you make things so much harder. I can't work with you." Or, "I've noticed that for the past few projects you have been having a hard time completing tasks. Can we talk about what's going on and how we can help you for the next time?" Which response do you think is the better, first or the second?
The second one.
Yes. All right, so it's important to improve your communication, and you can do this by asking for feedback, practicing new strategies, learning from mistakes, and reflecting on what works. All right, thank you everyone for listening about communication at work. Here is a book that I saw that could be super helpful if you have trouble speaking up in difficult situations. I hope I was able to open your eyes and educate you a little bit more and allow you to think about how to tackle communication in situations in the workplace. You can use what you learned to better communication in your job when working with coworkers, interacting with customers, and in different situations. Thank you.